And from Indiana University, Josh Shaevitz from Princeton. He is the chair-elect and the program chair of the 2023 March meeting. And Margaret Chung from Pacific Northwest National Lab, who is the program chair for the 2022 meeting. And I was the 2021 program chair. So you have a lot of experience from the chairs of DBIO of what goes into these different types of program organization. So before we go to our panel, I wanted to let Josh Shaevitz, who's planning who's organizing the program committee for this year, to present a few slides just to give an overview of the kinds of sessions we're looking for 2023 March meeting.
Okay, thank you, Margaret. Oh no, where did you all go? Oh well, there you are. I see. Okay, can you see this sort of
it all looks good.
Oh, I made you big again. Wonderful. Okay, so the March meeting it's an interesting thing. There are two kinds of sessions for which our membership can contribute in a general sense. There are contributed sessions in which members submit abstracts, and those talks are given in these sessions. And there are invited symposia, which are made up of sort of pre-selected invited speakers in groups of 5 who speak for longer. It is also true that some of the contributed sessions have 1 or more invited talks, which are slightly longer inside of them. Now, interestingly, kind of like the NIH and the difference between the review committees, the study sections, and the actual divisions of the NIH, when you submit abstracts, they go, you decide what sorting categories you think would be appropriate for them. And then a group of dedicated individuals takes a very large number of abstracts and tries to make consistent sessions out of them based on your input of what you think the subject matter is supposed to be. So one of the goals of these proposals in building these sessions is to identify kind of an optimal set of sorting categories to allow the members to tell us where we think they should go and to allow us to more easily sort them into consistent and coherent sessions. So those are kinds of the goals. Okay, so there's 3 roles that organizers, the volunteers like you, can contribute to. For the labeled sessions, the focus topics that were successful last year in the sense that they had many submissions and many abstracts at the meeting, we've chosen the top 25 of those, and those will automatically be sorting categories, which presumably will become session topics at the March meeting. And what we're looking for are volunteers who would help organize those. So that's making sure that the title and description is current, advertising those topics via email, Twitter, however it is you have contacts, trying to get abstract submissions to those topics for the ones that we pre-identified as having been successful over the last year. You can also volunteer to make a new focus sorting category, something that maybe doesn't exist now, the physics of dirt microbes, whatever, something that doesn't exist. If you think there's a topic that would be popular among a critical mass of our membership, you can propose a new topic. You would then be committing to organizing it, advertising it, et cetera. And I'll go through a little bit more in a second. And then the last way you can do it is you can propose an invited session. This involves you thinking about a coherent topic that would be made of invited longer talks, and also identifying and ideally confirming 5 speakers who would speak in this invited session. And this could be anything in biological physics. There's no carryover from last year. So all the invited sessions will be new for this year in that sense. Okay. Are there any questions about these? This is my understanding. Not everyone may agree on my words, but I think they're pretty true.
So Josh, can you just clarify, because I know that there are some postdocs on this call, who can submit focus sessions or agree to participate in the pre-identified focus sessions?
Yeah, we'll go through those a little bit more, but,
okay.
but I mean, anybody can. So there's a committee, the program committee. I am the chair, and there's 6, I think, other of the executive committee members of DBIO on that committee. We will read the proposals. And, you know, we're interested in exciting science. We're also interested in your commitment to advertise it and try to get abstracts if it's a focus session topic. And so absolutely postdocs, students, faculty, teams of people. It's pretty common to have maybe 2 co-organizers on a lot of these things. If you're proposing an invited session, you are absolutely allowed to be one of the invited speakers. In fact, this is a good way of kind of ensuring you might get an invitation, particularly if you're younger, or if you're younger and you have, you know, you can encourage your previous bosses or your mentors to propose an invited session and invite you. Go ahead, you know, do that and see, you know, try to get on the list of things.
I have a comment. It's actually, in order to access these databases, minimally it has to be an APS member. I'm not so sure if it has to be DBIO to propose those topics.
Correct. We would love you to be a DBIO member, though.
Yeah, I think being a DBIO member, I don't think there's a restriction, but minimally you have to be an APS member to access these tools.
So. You have to log on and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. So if we go back here, the abstract submission starts pretty soon in the fall, which means that the focus topics, those sorting categories, have to be finalized at the end of summer. We need to tell APS, and it's up to us as division, what are the categories we want them to put on the website so that when people submit abstracts, they can select the different categories. So for that reason, the pre-identified and new focus topic proposals are due in the middle of summer to give us time to work with them as a committee. That's the wrong thing. There we go. So in a few weeks, May 27th is when these proposals have to be in. You don't have to have secured any speakers. So this is much more about you thinking about topics, finding code, organizing partners, and thinking about how you might advertise. So there's two things you can go through. As I said, there's a pre-identified one for the 25 rollover topics, or you can propose a new one. We ask you for details of how you're going to advertise it. If you're specific, we will be much happier than if you were not very specific. So, you know, try to stand out and tell us how you're going to advertise this. For the new focus topics, we ask you for motivation for why this is a timely topic, a good topic for us to have this year. In principle, we can have an unlimited number of focus topics, but for those of you who have had students or you yourselves have submitted abstracts, you know the longer the list is, the worse it is. The harder it is to decide where you fit, the harder it is when the sorting happens, because if everybody gets their own topic, what do? Right? So there is some pressure to reduce this into some coherent number of things. You know, while you all might think each of you has your own topic in the world, it would benefit us to have some categorization to this process. And so that's what the committee will do, looking over the new focus topic proposals. If you are selected to organize one of these, either a new one or a pre-identified ones, you get some benefits to that, but you also get you have to pay a little bit of a cost in some sense. So you get to choose 2 invited speakers per focus topic. And so that is your opportunity to invite people who maybe don't come to the meeting, people you think should get an invited talk, think about it broadly. So that's a real benefit, and it's nice. You get to contact them and invite them. The payment you will do is that you will chair the sessions at the meeting. So you have to come to the meeting. You'll chair those sessions. And before that, you will help us sort the talks within your sessions. Mostly this means, you know, making the order something nice. Is the order by scale? Is the order by organism? You know, whatever. There's different ways you can do that. It also means that if you have slightly too many or slightly too few to fill a topic, or we have 2 things that are only half full, the sorters have to get together and think about how to make full sessions. Because at the meeting, we really want to have full sessions. And so you would be involved in that process as well. Okay, are there questions about focus topics?
I have a follow-up question. So for example, in the past, there's like some topics that's very successful and popular, have a 5 or 6 overflowing sessions. So how do they pick the number of selected speakers? Do they still pick 2? Or you prefer them to break down and submit multiple focus topics?
I would say 6 concurrent sessions of one topic is too many. And that means that we probably should have had somehow that should have been broken up into different sorting categories. And so if that happened one year, the next year, we probably want to figure out a division, because that is a lot of talks in one sort of thing. I was told by APS, we need to name 2 invited speakers per topic, and that's it, no more, no less.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. You know, what we can push on in the end, we will have to see, but we're going to follow the instructions until then. Any more questions? No more questions. Okay. So I think I only have one more. So invited symposia are different in that you're not making categories for people to contribute to. You're basically proposing entire sessions, 5 speakers who each will get the half-hour slot on, you know, a coherent set of topics. And so I tweeted this morning, and you will get an email in a few days that we are changing this system a little bit. This will allow us to extend the deadline all the way to August 5th, which I think is really beneficial, because one of the keys with invited symposia is if you can get confirmed speakers, that looks much better than if you just propose something that has 5 Nobel Prize winners. That obviously sounds exciting, but you know, our trust in the fact that you're going to get 5 Nobel Prize winners to the March meeting in a coherent 2-hour time block is pretty low. So having confirmed speakers is important. And so extending the deadline, I think, really helps you contact people and work with different sorts of speakers. So that system is a little different than the other one. The other one are Google Forms that we've made. You go, you fill it out, we will deal with it after that. APS has their own invited nomination system. It will open on June 30th. We will send the link to everybody. You then can log on, and you have until August 5th to put in the names of the speakers and the session topic and the motivation for the session and whether they're confirmed and all that sort of stuff. If you are selected to run the symposium, you will chair the symposium. You can have co-chairs if more than one of you submit at the same time. You also can speak in that session, so you're allowed to put yourself as one of the speakers in there. Now, very importantly, this is much more competitive. We are limited by APS in the number of invited symposia we can run. The number is, practically speaking, 7. So if there are many proposals, which I hope there will be, please put in great proposals. We will choose 7. I think thinking about breadth of topic, breadth of speakers, diversity, everything that, you know, we will consider all of these sorts of things, and we'll have to choose 7. If you don't get chosen this year, you should put it back in next year, you know, make it really current. But this is our chance to get really coherent, deep sessions going on that you get to craft in a way that you don't with contributed sessions, because there it depends on what people submit, right? It could be what you imagined, it could be what you didn't imagine. Here you get to craft the symposium a little bit more. Okay, I think that's all I need to say. If anyone has any more questions or anything, thank you for coming. There's a hand. Farshid.
Yeah, so question is, what do you do if you have you want to have an invited symposium, but it's not just DBIO, it could cross like GSMP or some other group. And then does that mean we have more than that 7 when we share?
Yes, good. In fact, for all of the proposals we're putting in, both the focus things on Google and the invited things at APS, there will be a section where you can say if this is of interest to other groups and divisions at the March meeting. And in fact, for the invited ones, if you put that on, we will work with them. So the rule is the sum stays the same. If we host one with GSMP, that costs us half and them half, and we have a half left over, which of course means we don't get another one. We have to find another co-host.
Yeah.
But then in principle, we would be on 9, but 2 of them are half, something like that.
Yeah, and Josh, I mean,
you can only be in units of a half.
Yeah, so I would say for practical purposes, my experience of observation has been that proposals for invited sessions that fall squarely in the middle are challenging. because of this half issue, because no unit wants to have to rely on finding another half partner. So unless it's a very unusual circumstance, I hate to say this, it makes me nervous. I think that it's better to try to target it. And it's not to mean that GSMP doesn't also have biocentric invited sessions, or DBIO as it doesn't have ones that overlap. But
yeah, I wanted to follow up about this collaboration, because DBIO is inherently interdisciplinary, and we love collaboration. But the reality is that the APS logistics team, I don't know if it's the same this year, but last year, convert the number of sessions that align with the primary sessions, not the sponsor one, with square foot of the conference room. So if we are co-sponsoring, that's great, but we don't get to count that into room size. So we will love, and then I think all the unit would like to do that, is to be the primary of a topic session. So if you find something that you feel like this DBIO will be more than 50%, we love to have you here, right? Because that will translate into bigger rooms or more rooms.
I see, thanks.
Yeah.
It's a good question, though. I mean, it's a very important question. And that issue does not occur with focus sessions, by the way. Right?
Well, what I'm saying, the focus session, it will only the primary sponsor unit will get to count.
Sure, but yeah, anyways, collaboration is encouraged, but that this issue of the invited sessions, when there's a limited number of resources, is becomes more of an issue with selection.
I agree with that.
Yeah. Other questions? Okay, so thank you, Josh. Are you still here, Josh? Or are you leaving? I think Josh left. Maybe Josh left. Okay, so Josh, you should feel free to contact Josh if more questions come up, because his committee will be the one making the decisions this year. And if there's questions about the process that he described, you should just get in touch with him directly. Cool. So if there's no other questions, then I'd like to start asking questions to the panel. I'm going to first ask Daniel and Sima to just sort of describe, I'll ask Daniel first, describe their experiences in organizing sessions for DBIO in the past, and how it helped you or your field of biological physics, and what your experience was like, both in the application, but also in running it. So Sima, do you want to go first? Oh, you're muted. We can't hear you.
Sure. I'm Sima. I'm in the physics department at Indiana University. And as Margaret said, I have both submitted proposals for focus sessions that have run at the March meeting. And most recently, I was involved in sorting abstracts, which was a new experience for me. So I can say a little bit about each. Maybe the most recent experience first, and how what I learned about that aspect of my March APS organization. I found it initially overwhelming, but I did in the end really come to appreciate all the hard work that goes into making a coherent program, and one takeaway from that experience was, the way in which a single proposed session, and I'll use one of the topics that I was involved with as a sorter, namely biofilms, or the physics of bacterial communities. How a single proposed focus session on biofilms ended up generating enough abstracts for what essentially became 3 focus sessions. And this topic was initially proposed by others, Jing Yan at Yale and Albert Siriapan from Irvine. And eventually, the work that went into constructing 3 focus sessions from their proposed topic ended up, breaking up proposals into these 3 tracks or concentrations, focus areas that address structure and mechanics, interaction and dynamics, and material properties of biofilms. And I had actually proposed a focus session on a related subject, which didn't attract a sufficient number of abstracts. And so the abstracts that were submitted to the focus session that I had proposed, as Josh said, the people who had identified their contributed abstract as falling under my session, they ended up being subsumed into these 3 biofilms or physics of bacterial communities sessions. So it was interesting to see, for me at least, for the first time, how that sorting took place under the hood, and how as sorters, these different concentrations for focus sessions were identified in cases where they were highly subscribed to. And so one point that I would make in this regard is, perhaps in anticipation of this, it may be useful at the proposal stage to identify tracks or concentrations of a more general focus session topic, because that helps at the sorting stage, and I think it also makes for a more interesting proposal.
Great, thank you very much. Daniel, could you introduce yourself and describe your experiences?
Sure, thanks. Yeah, I'm an assistant professor at Emory. Last year was my first time organizing a session and sorting. And it turned into 5 sessions, which was really too much. So probably we need to split that up. So it was a lot of work, particularly at the meeting, but I think I got more out of the meeting than I have in the past when I've just gone as a speaker. I was kind of paying more attention. I had a bigger overview of the talks. And I hope that the junior folks who came to our sessions in particular got more out than they might have otherwise, because we organized dinners for our participants. So, sometimes in these things, the senior people go off one place and the junior folks go off to another, and we had them all mixed together. So, I got to, decide I wanted the social environment of my little piece of the meeting to work this way. And so I got to do it. And the other thing I think maybe was nice was that because it turned into 5 sessions, I got to invite 5 people. So that, got to hear from a lot of people who I wanted to hear from.
Cool. Thank you. I mean, so that's something I really want to emphasize, is that the beauty of the March meeting is because it's all user driven, that we as members can really sculpt the sessions to be the way we want. I mean, some of you may not realize this, but when I started my faculty position 15 years ago, there were no sessions on cytoskeleton, right? And there's like tons of sessions now, right? This is because a few people in that field really started proposing sessions, and those sessions grew, not quite as quickly as the way Daniel described, but this is really, it's the efforts of people in the field that are really cultivating their new areas and their particular niche in biological physics. And this is really how we build for our own professional development of our field and ourselves, a great opportunity to grow this. And before I go to the other panelists, I just want to say, so Daniel and Sima describe it from the professor viewpoint. postdocs, a former postdoc of mine has been organizing sessions on droplet, liquid phase separation for a number of years. And as a postdoc, he's then been able to work with senior faculty in the field and really grow an area in, again, biological physics, which at the time when he started this didn't exist in the field. So I think this is also good if you're a postdoc, a way to team up with senior faculty to get sort of other kinds of mentoring opportunities too. So next I'll go to Ajay and Margaret. So maybe Ajay first, since your most recent experience has been as organizer, and then Margaret I'll go to last as the one who ran the program last year.
All right, thanks, Margaret. I'm Ajay Gopinathan. I'm the Vice Chair of the division, as Margaret mentioned before, and I'm a professor at University of California, Merced. So most recently, as Margaret again mentioned, I was an organizer along with Lena Koslover from UCSD, and we put together a session on intracellular transport. So I've organized sessions before for March meeting, as well as invited symposia, and from a distance. And so this time it was much more interesting because as organizers, we also got to take part in the sorting as well. And I think it involved all the organizers, the community much more. And I felt, it gave voice to people who are organizing things. And I think this was a great thing. So one thing that was especially interesting for me this time in terms of just organizing a session was that it was quite unexpected as to the kinds of proposals that, or at least the contributor talks that came in. And when it finally worked out, it seemed that there were a lot of people from applied mathematics and mathematics who had submitted abstracts to our sessions. And so this is a community of people that I knew kind of, but wasn't really fully in touch with. But then they all showed up at March meeting, and it was great. I got to meet with this completely new community of scientists whose papers I had been looking at, but I had never had a chance to interact with at APS. And so I think that's one of the beauty of having these organic kind of focus sessions cropping up every year, is the ability to cross into other disciplines. So that's, I think, apart from all the other things that the other panelists just mentioned, I think that was the most surprising thing for me.
Great.
The other thing, oh, sorry, I didn't.
No, sorry.
Okay.
Keep going.
Oh, I was just going to say, yeah, it has also made me appreciate the amount, as Sima, I think, mentioned, the amount of hard work that goes into actually sorting this and the constraints that we have. So which is a good problem to have so many sessions, but I think it's also important for people to understand that, if we have to scratch a session, it's not a reflection of, there are probably contributed talks. We just couldn't manage to fit it into the right categories, or manage to, there just wasn't enough. It could be just even short by a couple of talks. So we have to shuffle things around, but we try to do the best to give all the organizers a chance to, be organizers of their own sessions at the March meeting. So I just wanted to say that too.
Great, thanks, Ajay. And Margaret, your perspective, both maybe as an organizer, but also as running the whole program last year.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you for having me. I think when I was a chair, the APS decided to make it into hybrid. I think this necessity prompt innovation. So they make a lot of the important decisions, such as sorting abstract, to be an online event. It used to be an event that they have to fly several people to Washington, D.C. and sort. And you can see that sorting will just be in the hand of a very small amount of people. But now they are allowing the system go through internet. It really helps us to broaden the participation and really give the idea of power to the players and give organizers, members a greater say how they wanted to create a session or put things together. And one thing that's very unique in our March meeting is that the lead time to prepare a scientific session is very short. For the ones that I go to, like a biophysical society, they have like 2 or 3 years of lead time. So in that sense, it is quite common that the knowledge from 1 year is difficult to carry and to the next cycle. I think that Margaret G has done a very good suggestion, is to create some kind of pre-identified topics, so allow the institutional memory to be kept in the members, so the topics won't disappear or the community don't disappear due to some yearly fluctuations. So I think this is what I want to say. Thank you very much.
Cool. Thank you all. Now, does anybody on the panel want to reflect on any comments that have been said or something that we've missed? And then I also want to open up the floor to any questions from all these black screens that are on the.
I don't know. This is a question. Oh, sorry. Nancy has her hand up. But if I may just ask a question. I don't know if you mentioned the total number of sessions we would anticipate or give the.
Oh yeah, Margaret,
audience
that's a
sense
good
of that.
question. Yeah, how many sessions, like how many submitted abstracts were there? Actually, that's a good sense. And then also, how many total sessions did DBIO organize last year?
Okay, we have 73. So this is the number that
Sessions.
APS, the APS taught me, that each room, one room, can have 14 sessions with those alphabet letters, right? A, B, C, D, all the way to Z, the 14 sessions. So if we have 72, that means we can fill 5 rooms. So if we wanted to keep the same scope in March 23, like last year, to at least have 5 concurrent rooms available to us, then we will wanted to have 72 sessions that either focused or contributed. The invited talk doesn't count. The invited have their own different way of counting the square feet.
Great.
So I think that's one of the issues why last year was such a big disruption, because we expanded too fast and they didn't expect that we have that many sessions.
Mm-hmm.
So the room was not available.
Nancy?
Yeah, I just had a question about the focus sessions versus invited sessions. And if one were wanting to organize both, like say you have a topic and you've got a number of speakers you think would make an invited session, but you also would like to have contributed abstracts as part of that. Is there any preference given on the invited session since the date is so much later? Is there any preference given if you already have a focus session, or is that not stressed so much?
Yeah, I can comment on this. I think that given the fact that logistic is evolving, we should definitely decouple the two. So if you have a topics, keep it. And then if you want to put invited session, you put that, because invited session, because before we had the earlier same day, we can roll over, right? But right now we don't have the same date. So you should do 2 different things.
Can I ask a follow-up question on that? So just if one, say, was chairing both an invited session and a focus session, is the logistics just too much to handle, or what's your opinion on that?
People have definitely done that in the past.
Okay.
Yeah. And also, like, hopefully you have co-chairs as well, right?
Yeah.
That you trust and work with. And I mean, ideally you'd want a different subset of co-chairs for both of those. So you sort of reach out and show that it's not just your own little club doing the same thing over and over again.
I think this is important. One thing indeed happened, because during this COVID time, one of the chairs are not able to come. So I'm able to recruit the chairs from the focus session to chair on the invited session. So I think people are very friendly. You can work together.
And I see the focus sessions as really the core of of community building, right? Like they're really the way that you have an you want to build your community in biological physics. And just like Daniel was describing, this allows you to get leadership over what your little corner of the community is. And you really have the ability to build that. And I think that's a really great opportunity that the March meeting can provide to you, right?
And then I also think that each focus session can limit to also open up the opportunity. So it's not always organized by same clique.
Exactly, that's right. So so if you have not been involved in organizing a focus session that has been successful in the past, we would want to encourage you to volunteer to organize those. Because
Yeah,
it does not
so,
help
yeah.
if the focus sessions are organized by exactly the same people year after year. I mean, that's some
Yes.
evolution. I mean, people like Daniel do a great job at building communities, but we want some turnover and new ideas and just to build a more inclusive group. Are there any other questions? I see one from Jonathan Dawson.
Hi. Hi. So I have a question about actually, is there any upper limit as to how many people can co-organize a session? Like, is it like 2 or 3, or is it limited to 1 person?
Oh, definitely you can have 2. I've seen 3.
Okay.
I think more than 4 would be a bit much.
Okay. Okay.
But often in the past, I mean, if there's a lot of overlap between proposed focus sessions, sometimes we ask people, the 2 groups of 2, to work together. So then there's 4 people, and then that does get a little bit confusing. But yeah, definitely finding co-organizers is a good idea.
Yeah, we also wanted to broaden participation. So sharing leadership responsibility will be a good thing to do. What I have seen in the past is that some members will propose topics in different divisions. So that could be a way, if you feel like you wanted to have multiple topics, you could try, building your community across the division.
Yeah.
Thanks. I would just a follow-up question. Will the slides that Josh showed, will they be uploaded or sent via email to the DBIO group?
We can definitely send them, post them, and send them, and this recording will also be available.
Awesome. Yeah. Thank you very much, Margaret.
Great. Yes, Roya.
Yeah. So can you propose the same focus session over the years? Because you said that that's what you did about the Action Network, right? So you did it every year, the same topic?
I mean, yeah, it really depends on what the field is. So getting some continuity and sort of getting more general themes is what the idea was with these pre-identified focus sessions. So these were all identified because they had at least 3 sessions at March meeting. So there's 25 of them, right? And some of them had up to 6 tracks, right? And there are some that only had 1 session that had 1 or 2 organizers that keep doing it over and over again. I would suggest that for people that are more senior, to engage junior colleagues who we want to bring in to DBIO to help participate in organization, so you get a different perspective. Does that make sense? Like I would, I think, so I don't propose sessions anymore, right? Yes. But I think there's different roles that different seniority members can play in helping to build our community.
So I use a strategy is I've always pair with a newcomer.
Yeah,
exactly. They're physicists, but they usually come to the APS, not generally junior, right? They're very senior, but they probably go to BPS or some others. So they may not be comfortable coming to the March meeting. So I said, okay, I'll pair with you. I'll help you out.
Yeah.
And then actually they are actually forming the session, but I provide some institutional knowledge, how things work.
Yeah.
So I'm actually participating in like these 2 focus topics, both of them because it's very new. And I think that in the next round, perhaps can combine into 1. So it's very fluid.
Yeah.
And that's the beauty about this, right?
Yeah. And if I look down a pre-identified section, I would say that about half, a third to a half, have been going on for at least 5 years, if not longer.
Okay.
So I think with the new system, it benefit both cohort, a cohort who has already established community, another cohort who was still trying to nucleating, identifying, search for partners. So we wanted room for everyone to come here.
Farshid?
Yeah, so the question I have is, what do you guys do when you get proposals that are very similar to each other?
For focus sessions or invited sessions?
Focus sessions.
So if they are, I mean, and then Margaret can speak up, but if they're very similar and they're not in the current area, when they're not something that would be in one of our current tracks, I think Margaret's perspective was just to let both focus sessions go independently.
Yes,
Yeah.
I do. I mean, last year, I actually indeed email individual organizer and inform them who they are. Somebody will come in. They'll say, oh, I know so-and-so, I can work with this person. And then that naturally will fit and combine, right? Because some of them will just, we would create a 3 or 4 co-organizer for a topic, that's great. But there's other cases is where people know I prefer to have an focus session. I'll see who will come. Yeah. And that works as well because they may attract different cohort and they indeed fulfill that session. And of course, we have the third one is that are unable to fill a session. And at the stage 2 of a sorter, the super sorters, senior sorters, will combine them. So in any case, I think there are ways to move forward to include all those diverse conditions.
So if I do submit a proposal for a focus session and there is another person who's doing a similar thing, I do get informed before the decision's made that there is someone else doing this, so that we can.
I think both Margaret and I both did that when we were program chairs. We'd have to check with Josh.
Yeah, we have to see if Josh is doing this. Okay. This is not a practice that has been enforced. That the chair
it hasn't been enforced.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks.
These are good questions. Any and I just want to emphasize that with the ones that are pre-identified, if you volunteer to organize one of those, you and your co-organizers have the flexibility of tweaking the titles, right? So this is just a general theme that we saw was very popular last year, right? And we want leaders to make sure that there's consistency from year to year in this general area, but we're not trying to enforce a title, or we don't want those to become too narrow, but we would like to help grow that field, but they can become different tracks.
Maybe just to add from, it seems like that's the easiest way in. If you're new, young, wanting to kind of get some experience in this area, build your CV and so on, is like just sign up to be the organizer of one of those, and that would be great.
Oh, I also wanted to mention, Josh is not here, but last year's for the invited session, the committee members, program committee members, indeed evaluate which one we should go. So when you suggested the speakers, please make sure that it's diverse in all axes. Yeah, that is important for the consideration of the invited symposium.
Great. So, I mean, people are dropping off. If anybody has questions, I'll stay on here for a few more minutes. I want to thank the panelists for coming to share their experiences. And I hope that everybody who came signs up to participate in organizing a focus session or helping to build the program for next year's March meeting. So thank you very much for coming.